guys, welcome back to the Katie Wheeler Accessibility Podcast. My name is Katie Wheeler and I'm your host for this show where we talk about accessibility, technology, and more. Today I am so excited to have a fellow content creator and YouTuber, Christian Sullivan, here with me today. Hi Christian, how are you today?
Good. How about you? I'm doing really well today.
I'm doing great. So much. Thank you so much for being with me here today, and I'm excited to hear about your journey, all things like accessibility, and I also want to hear about your experience as a individual with a dual disability, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So first of all, what kind of inspired you to do YouTube videos?
Oh, I would say this happened like about 5 years ago during the pandemic. When all of us were locked down in our homes and the world was in a pause, which was
Yeah.
interesting to say the least. So
Mhm.
that was actually when I first applied to a uh, the Guiding Eyes to the Blind guide dog school because they were actually partnering with a local organization in downtown Chicago that my O&M teachers from my school, from the special ed program that I did for the blind,
Mhm.
called SASIB, the School Association for Special Education in DuPage County, is a visually impaired program. So the O&M
Mhm.
teachers, they they have they do a lot of collaborating with them, but from just school groups and all that. But to make a long story short, they were doing this thing with the school, the guide dog school, of blo- giving out guide dogs that are retired or they didn't pass their test to become one, so they were adopting them out
Yeah.
as pets to the blind people that are my age.
Uh-huh.
And but one thing I did not know that I wish they would have told people was like the age. There was an age limit apparently, and then all of a sudden, like I got an email back from somebody saying that there was an age limit. So it was kind of disappointing. It's like
Right.
okay, well you should have communicated that then, because that's
Yeah,
kind of a
exactly.
disappointing thing. But anyways, then someone from the guide dog school, I can't recall who, but that doesn't matter. They asked me if I wanted to apply for a guide dog, and I was like, and I thought about it for a little bit because I knew where I was in my life. I was still in high school at the time. I was a senior, but as of now, I've been out of the school system for the last 3 years. Because I was
Mhm.
in a transition program for students with disabilities 18 to 22, so I aged out at 22. For those that do not know, that is basically it's to give us those with disabilities that may have some type of cognitive delays of some sort that may need more like attention on certain stuff for whatever reason, like maybe something with like job skills or like like my case, like the
Mhm.
blind O&M training. Or the thing that was the nice perk when I got my current and first guide dog, Zeke, who's been with me for the last 3 years. No, he's been, well, since January 2022.
So it's almost been 4 years,
Yeah,
right?
just about. Yeah, so you can see like this been a very short
Yeah.
amount of time. So,
Yeah. Cuz I got Indy in May of 2022 and I think you had just returned from New York when I was going to get Indy, like a few months before that. Good education piece.
it's
But
it's funny. Like I didn't even ask my school to do that. I
yeah.
just kind of went with it because I was alone, and I knew I was
Yeah.
safe because the admissions department contacted both
Mhm.
my mom and I, and the reason why I say my mom and I, even though I'm like, I mean, even though I'm an adult, she is also my parents. There's this thing called guardianship for adults with disabilities that some due to some of the cognitive delays with my brain from birth, I do need some additional assistance with certain things, not because I can't do it, it's because I can, but it's just I may need help understanding certain things that I may not quite comprehend as quickly, if that makes sense. For I mean, we all
Yeah.
function
Yeah.
differently, but yeah.
Right. And I consider myself very, very blessed because, yes, I do need some help on certain things, but, you know, I was never given like an extended school period. Like, I went straight from high school. Well, not straight from high school. I took a year off sabbatical, I guess, and then I went straight into college. So, I was very blessed in that regard to have, the family support to be able to do that. But like you said, everybody's journey is different.
Yeah,
I
and
think,
yeah, and they said, they support. Everyone supported
yeah.
me from the start. But I've learned for like one of the goals I had to get a service dog was there's actually a video on, I think, both of my YouTube pages, if I recall correctly, of me doing a thing with Chicago Lighthouse on their North Branch in Glenview, Illinois, where I actually got to be with a leader dog who they were showing a group of people um
Mhm.
about, like, like what it takes to, have a service dog in general and all that kind of fun stuff. And I got to walk with one,
Right.
and I didn't like the polling from this particular dog. Winnie was a black Labrador that I remember being guided with the instructor
Mhm.
or trainer. She was kind of slow, but I mean, this is obviously not matching or commitment, which I think makes sense. This is more of like a trial for people to like test it out. And
Mhm.
one of my goals was actually to get a guide dog once I got out of the towards the end of my school career, uh, and into adulthood, because I feel like I would be ready for that, because I do know that service dogs
Yeah.
are 16 and up, and um it's just a big responsibility to give a young person a dog. But as long as like you're obviously committed,
Yeah.
which is a huge requirement, then the world is pretty much open for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where, the school where I get my dogs from, Canine Companions, not to like plug them or whatever, but they're really, really good in the fact that they give adults to kids. If you have a guardian when you're 5 and up that's willing to take on that responsibility of taking care of the dog, because obviously you can't expect a 5-year-old child to understand and, take on the responsibility of a big giant dog, right? So they have
Yeah,
that program in
and
place.
they're only
And
that's
so,
very, very little to like, yeah, to like,
mhm,
yeah, as long as like the I agree, as long as
mhm,
like the I actually did know someone from a special recreation group who had a mobility assistance service dog.
mhm,
uh, um her mom, her guardian, or her mom, because I think she was a teen at the time. This is about a decade ago. She would help her daughter, who is also in a wheelchair. She had a hard time moving her arms, as well. So like that's also why, like, even though she could, I mean, we had staff supervision on us, obviously, because I just said what it was,
yeah,
the
yeah,
circumstance.
yeah,
So yeah, you guys get the point.
yeah. And I think that's really unique because, and I think it brings home the point of like, you don't necessarily have to have your whole life figured out to go get a service dog or go get a guide dog, but you do pretty much have to be independent because the dog doesn't just magically know. If you can, kind of touch on this a little bit, like, obviously guide dogs and dogs in general can't tell if a light's red or green, right?
Yeah,
So
they're
how
colorblind
do
to
they
that
know how to cross
compared
the
to us humans.
yeah, so like, how do they know to cross the street? And I know that sounds like a dumb question, right? But to our
Yeah.
viewers that have no idea, like, they
Oh,
just
trust
assume
me,
that
I've
the
heard
dog
this
knows.
plenty.
Yeah.
I've heard this plenty of times from other people, so I mean, it's not really new to me. So
Mhm.
I kind of educated myself over
Yeah.
the years, and I
Yeah.
knew what I was getting into. So I mean,
Mhm.
but to answer anybody's question on, so they don't really know. I mean, guide dogs and mobility assistants, that is completely two different tasks.
Mhm.
Obviously, but to make a short answer, I would say that they don't really know when to cross the street, even though, if you want to imagine that, go right ahead. But realistically speaking, that's just not the reality of life. that type of lifestyle, you have to be really good with your
Yeah,
orientation
yeah.
and mobility skills. And luckily, I
Right.
have enough remaining eyesight. I have low vision in my left eye, but I'm completely blind in my right eye. That's how I've always been visually impaired because I was born 4 months earlier than I was supposed to be. So I
Mhm.
have the condition I have is retinopathy of prematurity. So yeah, that basically
Mhm.
like my retina's detached, and that base. If you research it, it would make sense. But it's pretty common. A lot of prematurely born babies are at risk for that, and they thought that I was actually going to die in the hospital due to I was on oxygen. I was actually gasping for air. They put me on a ventilator, from what my parents have told me. And that just
Oh my
sounds like scary.
gosh.
I know that sounds scary to think about and imagine. Like here we are, 24 years later,
Right. Right.
like living life. And I mean, I don't. I mean, I know not everyone is. This is kind of more, no offense to any religious beliefs or anything. I mean, the whole reason I was named Christian was because my mother, she prayed for to God for me to like not live in the to like live in the hospital when I was born. I wouldn't neither my neither I would not die, and like I would be kept on this earth for a reason. And look where we are now.
Right, exactly. And I'm a Christian myself as well, and so I sit there and I say, there's nothing wrong with that because your life could have been so much worse when you think of everything that could have gone wrong that didn't, right? And so,
Yeah, proving the doctor, basically
like,
proving the doc. This all goes back to
yeah,
the medical model and all that kind of thing.
right, exactly. And what he's referring to, for those of you who don't know, is the medical model versus the social model of disability, which means that the medical model is basically focusing on fixing the physical body or trying to, as best you can, fix the physical body. Whereas the social model focuses on the outward challenges in the world that society puts upon us, right?
Yeah,
And so I think it's, both as a content creator and service dog handler, both he and myself really are on a mission to like change the way society views disability and the way corporate America views disability. Because the more that people are out in the world with disabilities, the more we deserve equal rights to be in places, right? And
yeah.
so,
Because I mean, yeah, and because. Oh, are you finishing up, or do you want me to go ahead?
oh no, that's fine. Like I don't like I that's kind of where I was going with that. But if you have a thought, you can
Okay.
go ahead and.
Okay, so I mean, like,
So
I mean, no offense to anybody, but I'm sorry, but we live in a much different world now. Because I mean, I know of so many people, including my home state here in America, that there's a lot of people with disabilities that are my age that are currently in their process of getting employment, or are maybe they're gonna age out of the school system next year, and get their diploma and like do the job skills training program I did at the Central DuPage Hospital in Winfield, Illinois for 9 months with my guide dog, by the way. It's a
mhm.
program that's nationally recognized. It's called Project Search. So basically, I mean, you could look at. I mean, anybody could look it up and read up what that is. But I do have videos on that
Yeah.
and links to
I
resources on that.
okay. I do want to ask one question because I had never heard of Project Search. So is that something similar to like Voc Rehab?
What do you mean, like like vocational training for like job skills and all that?
Yeah. Do they
Yes, that's
center around? Okay. So do they center that around more of what you want to do versus what Voc Rehab wants you to do?
if I recall correctly. I mean, anybody can correct me on this, but
Yeah.
it's very, I'm gonna say, just for my sake and my circumstance, that Project Surge is very person centered, as well as your family. It's like you're part of the team of helping like the person with the disability that wants to achieve whatever employment goals that they have, either in the short term as well as long term. Because not, let me tell you, 9 months of being in Project Search, they push you through the ringer. Because I was in my last year of the school system, and I needed to get a job placement during my job development process when I was in my third 10-week internship within the hospital
Mm-hmm.
with assistance from job coaches from an agency located in Lisle, Illinois called Parents Alliance Employment Project, which provides the job coaches. They partner with all the special education programs throughout my home state, Illinois, and they it's a lot of like basically a lot of networking and community collaboration, if you will. So they really like work. The job coaches really work hard with you to make sure that you get like a job based on realistic circumstances. Like they want you like it's perfect. It's good to have a long-term goal, and sometimes it's even hard to like think of a 5-year long term. I've gotten these questions plenty of times in the educational career path of my life, and
Right, so have
I
I.
just never knew what I wanted to do. I mean, I had not a really good idea, but like anything can happen, and you just have to think realistically on where you are currently in life. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you want to achieve that goal, then I would say then go for it as long as you desire that, and like that's how you actually feel in your heart. If you have like a very very strong passion and that's always been your goal, even maybe even as a kid, then I would say then just let it rip. As I always say to people, let it rip and go for it.
Right. I mean, because you never know what can happen tomorrow, and life is too short to not um, live in, work and live in a career that you're perfectly passionate about and perfectly content doing. And I think one thing that stands out, and why I wanted to talk to you today, was one thing that stands out about social media is that's a platform for those of us with disabilities to showcase our individualized talents. And what I figure, what I have found, and maybe Christian, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this or even add to that, like when you have a potential employer that wants to look at your work, right? Not the work that, you've had, a production crew work with you on. Not that there's anything wrong with having a production crew help you with things, because believe me, I use them when I need them. But having a full sample of your work that you actually produce yourself, that you do that whenever you say, let me see your work, well, YouTube is a full portfolio, right?
Yeah, and
Because
that's one of the
usually,
things. Yeah, and like you
yeah.
said, that's one of the nice things about social media. And yes, I understand that for older generations, no offense, but I mean, it's harder to like understand certain things, and how like I get it. Like the digital world can definitely be very hard to deal with, but that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the good things. That's one of the good things I always knew about social media, even when I turned into a later teen into early adulthood, basically my whole life. That's what I found. That's what really helps with the pandemic. But also but also meeting but also just watching just other people that are like me and you, or like in the disability community as a whole. It doesn't matter what condition they have. It's just we're all in the
Right,
same boat.
exactly.
So yeah.
And I think for me, having this podcast really, and I know, it's early days yet, we're in our first season, but that's also a resource for somebody to look at and say, holy crap, not only is she a good editor, but she's a good interviewer. Not interview is perfect, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so it's, and everybody's like sitting here going, well, you're in a wheelchair. But yeah, I am. But look what I
Like,
can
yeah,
do
of
in
course
spite
I
of that.
am, but
Right. And like, look at the impact that I have on all these people. And, and so that's also, I feel like, a good kind of asset, because it shows not only your work, but it shows potential employers that you can have a significant following. And then, not everybody's going to hire you, right? But it shows them that, like, You know how to hold an audience. You know how to answer questions effectively and appropriately, right? Because obviously, being on social media, I get
It's not a
comments all the
game,
time
yeah.
from people, right? I get comments all the time for people from maybe all over the globe. I don't know, because YouTube doesn't give you, the specifics of where they are unless you actually know them personally. And so, I have to be very careful about how I answer questions, but also realizing that how you answer somebody's question, either written or in video form, makes a difference for those with disabilities who may be worse off than you, right? And so, yeah, uh, can you talk about how you personally handle those people who, because of your blindness, assume that you have somebody answer the questions for you, or like kind of the assistive technology, such as, JAWS or NVDA that you may use
Oh yeah,
on
sure.
your.
So
Yeah.
the way so like the thing that really helped me with handling like either trolls or maybe some just random silly comments that do get annoying after a bit, but that's just the reality. So I've seen other content creators that have gotten all the same thing, and they just make like a whole. I've seen them make a video like a maybe like a short form or maybe even a long form somehow, depending on what they choose to do in terms of answering comments while like showing them on the screen. But for me, this is only my preference. I prefer not to do that because maybe it's certain privacy things on the person's end or whatever, but because you never know what could happen
Mm-hmm.
with a pretty large following. But so what I do is I just reply to them respectfully as I can, but there does come a point where it does get quite annoying, and then I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
and then like you kind of start either acting sarcastically, but you do it in a way that online that's that's not going to piss someone off.
Exactly.
Yeah, you kind of have to. One of the things that I've always like before I was ready before I even started doing stuff like this. I thought about so many things personally, so and like you really have to think about like your comfort level on certain things if you feel like you're actually genuinely ready to like actually handle that kind of kind of constructive criticism or maybe like ignorance because I mean
Mm-hmm.
sadly that's just the world we live in and
Mm-hmm.
because somebody because number one, no one is gonna speak up for you at the end of the day. I mean, yeah, maybe your parents or family members, but when you become an adult, you have to do it for yourself because, and this is what my teachers have always told me in school, and they've always like pressed us on this. And even I've heard some people get annoyed by it, but I don't know. I've always like took it with a grain of salt as best as I could, even though maybe if certain things were really hard. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they tell you this stuff in the special ed programs for and why these programs exist for a reason. They do this for a reason because one, they number two, they also like looking out for you as students, but also for your long term future when you eventually leave the education system for good and go out and live life. And thirdly, finally, people just this is what I tell people all the time, and this is what I love that they my own M teachers did. For those that didn't want to use their white
Yeah.
cane, that you were not allowed to do this because we would do these fun O&M trips in downtown Chicago actually on the CTA L train. I have some videos from years past, but there's it was really cool because I live out in the suburbs my whole life and I feel that Chicago downtown Chicago is just overwhelming for
Yeah.
just my life personally and I've met plenty of blind people at the Chicago Lighthouse that are used to it and I'm like nah, and like that's fine you do you that's not me.
Right. Exactly. And I think to your credit, I want to speak on, the whole safety as a content creator thing because I've had assumptions made about me being in a wheelchair and being a content creator that I do have to be a little more cautious because of my situation. Well, everybody does, regardless if you have a disability or you don't,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Even though the statistics do say that those with disabilities, especially those that are, I just like to say everyone because that's just true facts, and that like
Yeah.
people with disabilities are more at risk of abuse and whatnot, all the dangerous stuff in the world. So and that's one of the reasons why guardianship, like, of my family, for me, because of some of my mental delays with my brain, like, I just own it, even though yes, I do sometimes get frustrated. Maybe it's because I'm young and I have a lot of energy, and I love what I do, but I have always been advised, and I've always, like, took me a long time to, like, process stuff like internet safety on certain things, even though I knew quite a bit. Obviously, there's even though I know quite a bit, but there's also stuff I don't, that I just
Mm-hmm.
I don't take a step back for a minute. Like I would say most of us have done this mistake somehow,
Mm-hmm.
or one way or another. With you have to, like, for example, for like a good example, if I could bring one out, if you guys watch, I mean, you'll see from videos that I actually make elevator videos because I also have autism. Like, there's this whole community of people with, that's actually how I started YouTube 10 years ago in
Mm-hmm.
2015, when I was a teen, because this guy with autism started, like, elevator photography and all that kind of thing. And to make a long story short with that, I've actually have done 3 elevator enthusiast meetups. One of them was actually just last week, who from locally, actually local people in my home area. One of the things that I did before I even considered, like, meeting up with people, I
Mm-hmm.
want to get to know them. And I also, what I did was I went, okay, I know this may sound creepy, but this is just what I do. And I mean, I think anybody, let's be honest, I think anybody would do something like this, because sadly, that's the reality of the internet. You know, when you find your people, yes, it's exciting, but yet, you have to. I had to, like, what I did was I identified certain people to make sure that they are who they actually are, because I have watched this show called Catfish on MTV, which
Yes,
is
I
basically,
have to.
yeah, I'm sure many
Yeah.
people have seen it. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
And that's scary. And luckily,
Yeah.
with, like, yeah, it's safe with having a dog around, but yet one of the things that I do is that I want to see if this particular elevator enthusiast, or just anybody period, is okay with, like, once I get to know them a bit, like, kind of get to know their personality, because I'm just naturally a very observant guy, so on people's personality, and not just because of the conditions I live with, but also it's just a natural skill that you develop over the
Yeah.
years. And yeah, you just kind of, like, I had to figure out ways that, okay, so I'm like, okay, I know that I'll eventually get to do this, but how can I do this in a way that is not only safe for my guide dog and I, but also, like, like, I wanted to get to know them as, like, as a person, and, like, I identified, like, either their email address, as well as, like, their
Mm-hmm.
elevator content, and looking closely at comments, and kind of figuring out, like, recognizing, like, the mannerisms and how people do certain things, or, like, kind of figure out, like I have this one. So yeah, like, that's basically what I had to what I've done over the years before, like, considering doing this. And I I, I it's not just because family, it's not because people in my personal life don't want me to meet up with people, and, be with, like, people my own age and similar interests. It's just that you gotta, like, I mean, they've told me this too, and I've thought about this a lot, and even talk with people that I trust from, like, the school system, or even, like, my sibling who actually has similar circumstance. I'm not going to go into detail with that because I need to respect the rights of HIPAA, which is a federal medical
Yeah.
law.
Yeah.
Yes, and because
Right.
what I'm advised. So if I'm, because I'm not allowed to disclose that, so I'm not going to. But although, I mean, if you watch videos. I mean, yeah, it'd be one thing if you know like here and there, but like I mean, that's not hit. That's not my sibling. That this is we're talking about me right now, and also this is just my own life. We're
Yeah.
completely two different
Yeah.
people at the end of the day. So
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, like my family knows I do YouTube. Um they fully respect that, but they also know that I know, I know the boundaries and safety protocols to take, cuz you better believe it that even though I manage all of my content myself, I have a whole family that watches out for me, and if anything goes amiss on any of my, whether it be my personal or professional channels, or even like my personal pages, they're like, who posted that? And like,
yeah, like
you
I've
know what I
I've gotten
mean?
asked that by like either relatives
Yeah,
from like let's say Facebook for
yeah,
example, or maybe
yeah,
like even like my mom, like she actually like my mom and my whole family they support it, and you know is like for you same idea, like you know like it could be a good career tool and all that kind of thing like how you mentioned earlier. You know, you just got to like think about it's just frustrate. I mean, I think a lot of us, especially those in the disability community, it is so freaking hard and annoying it's frustrating that like I can't just go and like when I go out to make videos in elevators or if I want to go ride one
mhm,
for just because I saw a video somewhere or because I live near it,
mhm,
I figured out ways on how to do, I wanted to do the everything. I seen how people that drive a car by themselves, how they do it. And I'm like, okay, so like they can do this. I mean, I have always wanted to do stuff like that, and I wanted to figure out ways on how to do this myself. And one of the things that,
right,
yeah, so like just to make a long story short there, to not go, because like, you know, like I think you all can tell just by watching both of us that we are pretty big talkers. So, I mean, we sometimes go on. Well, I mean,
yeah,
I mean, for me, we just talk like tangents and all that. That happens to
yes,
all of us, but you know,
and that's normal, I
yeah,
think.
that's totally normal. So yeah, there's nothing
So
wrong with that.
one of the questions that I did want to touch on, because unfortunately I don't have the good fortune of using Uber and Lyft because they're not set up for wheelchair users. Boo hoo. Unless you're in a manual one, and then you're fine. But Uber and Lyft get with the program. Not to have a shout out to them, but how do you deal with access issues with Zeke if they refuse to, or your guide dog, if they refuse to
So
transport you?
luckily, I've been pretty lucky. I mean, not to make anybody upset or anything,
Right.
but as a full disclosure, but from my circumstance, we are actually pretty lucky here because I live in a region of Illinois that's actually very populated. Like I said, like I'm not far out from from downtown Chicago, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean it could be anywhere, but that's not the point. The point is that I have another friend who uses Lyft, but he's only a white cane user that I went to high school with. But in my circumstance, one of the things that I've had to do, not just from looking at stuff online, of course, but also like I've studied like you have to study the federal laws locally as well as federally because you need to know your rights and because it's a civil matter and
Yeah.
yeah, and I have documented this before, and I'm grateful for the eyesight I do have because unfortunately, if you don't document something, they're not going to take you
Right.
seriously, and
And yeah,
it turns into a
yeah,
whole other ordeal. And I don't use them all the time. I have a very good relationship
yeah,
with a local cab company who I'm actually friends with the dude who does the phone calls on Facebook who I've talked to in person before
yeah,
who's taken me. We've developed a good like they are very accommodating to both my brother and I and like they because one they actually saw a Facebook post that a family member did. I didn't post it because one, I do not want it because if I tag Uber, you never know what could happen. Even if someone doesn't comment, there's always people
yeah,
watching and they could cancel my account because sadly, there's crazy people in this world got like I sorry, I just caught myself almost cursing. I'm trying to control that. That's another thing you gotta
Yeah.
that we all have to, that all of us essentially have to control because it's just not professional.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, they my family did it on behalf of me because one, I don't have they want to do the content creation, but also, family, like have you talked about earlier with safety, all in all in the world, like your family is always going to look out for you because I mean, you live with them, you're related, so I mean, they know you the best.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like,
Right.
what you not only you know what you want, but also like we just don't use them as much now. I personally, if anybody from Uber is watching this, okay, respectfully, I would advise that you guys need to do a better job with getting certain people that are allergic or scared of dogs or just don't want dogs in their vehicle. Period. Whatever the heck the circumstance is, you need to do you must do a better job with
Mm-hmm.
not only following certain laws and regulations, because in your policy it states that you cannot do that.
Right.
You really,
Exactly.
yeah, you need to do some type of training. Don't tell me that it's not possible because you need to take the time out of your day somehow to do something, because how much more crap do we have to deal with in this world, and we're already disabled enough
Exactly.
in the world because it's already
Exactly.
hard enough for us to get around in the world.
Right. And
We
can I
can't
speak out
drive.
is right? Can I speak out and say, um, I respect Uber and Lyft so much because they do provide a great service to those of us with disabilities. But
Yeah,
when
I do
you
agree. I do agree with that. I would like to say that for everybody's sake, so they don't
right,
think I'm like being negative or
yeah,
anything.
but when you don't provide services for those in power wheelchairs, you're missing out because unfortunately for me, my power wheelchair is my mobility aid. Yes, I make that choice to be in a power wheelchair, but I have the most safety, the most autonomy, which means the fullest level of independence in my power wheelchair. But yet, when you don't have the ability to transport me, you're cutting down on my options, right? Is that a good way to put it, Christian?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I agree. And like the way like
Okay,
we just navigate the world. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
yeah,
I think that makes sense.
because I don't want to make them sound like horrible, but I
Yeah,
also want to
because they aren't.
point
There's good
out
things about it. Yeah.
yeah, I also want to point out that when they don't have the options for those of us in power wheelchairs, it's kind of like we're stuck, right? And then
Yeah, we're
so
stuck where we
and
are.
and one of the other reasons, I'm sad, but I'm also grateful that I know I can't use Uber and Lyft is because I do have indie. And so many of my friends, and maybe not you necessarily, but like Joy Ross, Molly Burke, I'm saying content creators for those of you out there who, so you know who we're talking about, who almost daily, isn't it, that like Molly posts or whatever, that she's denied
Yeah.
access because of one of her dogs. And it's sad because she's a
Yeah.
businesswoman and
Yeah,
does
and
so much for the
she's an
disability community.
yeah, and she's
Yeah,
not
and
only that,
so,
she's an entrepreneur. Like she has her own public speaking business, and but yeah, one of the things that I've told my family, I've advised them on this so many times that and it got frustrating at times, but I get it because it's
yeah,
hard to understand until you experience it, till you've lived it.
yeah,
But I've told them so many times. I've seen so many videos over the years of people getting
right.
denied access, and I knew what was going. And Uber actually has they do have an Uber Pet option. We only did that because so that way just people can just stop making. And I didn't even though yes you can say that you have a service dog. Let me tell you that can also that can also give you a cancellation. That's happened plenty of times over the
Quicker
years,
than,
as
yeah,
quicker than you
yeah.
realize. And
So,
even though, yeah, so like I don't disclose that. So what I have is I actually have a blanket in my bag ever since I got a random email like the next morning. Uber sent me an email like 4 a.m. when I was sleeping. When I checked my
oh my
inbox on my,
goodness.
I know, I'm like, who the, excuse
At
my
4
language, but
a.m.,
who the hell is up at that time? But
right?
but
Like, I'm not going to cut that out, by the way.
Okay.
But 4 a.m. But 4
Life
a.m.
of being
Like what?
like who's up at that
Nobody
time?
is up at 4 a.m. Right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one
So
thing if you wake up in the
like
middle of the night, but but still, it's like you're generally most people, most of the world sleeping or whatever time zone you're in.
yeah. Yeah, and so like we said, Uber's and Lyft is a great program,
They are,
but
yeah. They just need some major improvements. That's it. That's all.
yes, exactly.
That's all we're
Because my
saying.
right, exactly. Because my a family member of mine and I were talking just yesterday, and I won't name names, but they were saying, because I have some opportunities to travel, just like Molly, and do some speaking and stuff. And one of their biggest concerns is like yes, I'm an independent person, right? But because of transportation issues and things like that, like I have an assistant that travels with me, and unfortunately, a lot of my assistants have other jobs, and so they can't just drop whatever they're doing and come and assist me. So these things like transportation issues need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed like today or tomorrow.
Yeah, and not only that, I would also like to mention with all these, I mean, no offense to anybody's political beliefs, but let's drop that. Let's drop that and talk about the
Yeah,
accessibility thing
yeah,
in general. Enough with the
yeah,
politics.
yeah.
So yeah,
Right.
that is BS. And so with all the so in my area, at one point there was like these potential service cuts for whatever reason for like public transit, whatever the heck, and
Mm-hmm.
for certain of course the corporate rich and whatnot because money is sadly an addiction and drug. Look,
Right. Right.
I'm so, and I'm sorry if certain people, certain banking people get pissed off or certain places get mad, but I'm sorry to tell you this, but money's not everything, and you are not living in reality, and I'm just saying that because of more so in this case of our life circumstances, not based on of certain beliefs, whatever the heck the political party that you are in, because it is so look, I know it's like a risk, but like we need to talk about these things, and because somebody has to do it, someone can, because taking action and not speaking up is not going to do anything. Sorry, that's just not going to like
Right.
you have to be your own advocate, and I know I may sound,
Right.
but this is just the passion side of me. You all can figure this out, that
Right.
we're pretty passionate people when it comes to, because we genuinely care about these things, and we have lived through so
Yeah.
much things, so that like
Yeah. And
yeah, like you just
yeah.
need to take the time, like, but also like you got to like take the time to like figure this kind of stuff out with like the budget on certain like issues. We often get overlooked, and it really, like, I get it. There's plenty of things in the world happening, but like it does not mean it's not
Mm-hmm.
there. It still exists, and you need. They're not gonna.
Right.
I mean, not every problem's gonna be fixed. There's always. They're just gonna. They're just gonna be problems that maybe either a person
Right.
hasn't dealt with before, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
somebody doesn't even know how to deal with these situations. So I would recommend like getting someone who's very knowledgeable on this stuff, maybe who's
Yes.
in this
Like a
world,
yeah. Yeah.
in the type of community, yeah, to like assist you with that
Be-
in your job or whatever, if you're dealing with like a case that's pretty major
yeah.
in these
Because
circumstances.
yes, because I think one of the things that's really important to mention is that, Christian and I are only two people with disabilities, but we're not all people with disabilities.
Yeah, we're just two
Yes,
people.
we can
We're just
share,
two, yeah,
yeah,
two different people.
yeah, and I think, yeah, and I think,
Yeah, we
like,
can.
we have
So,
to,
sorry,
yeah,
sorry. I get excited when
yeah, it's
yeah.
okay.
But
It's
go
okay.
ahead.
It's okay. I do too. I think we both have different perspectives and we both have different disabilities that impacts us, in a completely, totally different way. And I think one of the things that I kind of want to end on is one of the most, I don't want to say hurtful, is the word hurtful a good word? One of the most arrogant, I guess, things you can say to a person with a disability, and then we can kind of wrap up on when what it means to you when companies and so forth take the time to make content accessible to you as a blind person. But before I get into that, I want to touch on this. One of the most hurtful things that you can say to someone with a disability, if you don't have a disability, is sit there and say, "We understand." A better way
Like,
to
no,
say that would be
it's
like,
like a passive
"Yeah,
thing. Yeah, it's like you say
right,
it, but you really don't. You really don't.
right,
You are not
like,
taking the time
but
and doing a good job with
yeah,
taking the time.
right." And so I think one of the things you can say is sit there and say, like to Christian, I can say, I'll never know what it's like to be blind, and I'll never know what it's like to have autism.
Yeah.
Thankfully, right? And so I can sympathize with the fact that, you walk out your door and can't see cracks in sidewalks and navigate the world with a guide dog. Yes, I navigate the world with a service dog, but those are two completely and totally different things, regardless of the fact that society seems to think every sinking time I take Indy out, they ask me if I'm blind. But that's another topic for another day that I would
Yeah, that
love to
is
have you
another
back
topic.
on
Yeah, because that's
to
considering so much
discuss.
more talking. Yeah.
So yeah, because that's a whole other hour of combo. But one of the things I wanted to end on, then we can end our conversation, is what does it mean to you when professionals like myself and corporations that want to make content more accessible to those of you in the blind community, like what does that mean to you? Like,
I would say try to take the I would say do your best to take the time to figure out understand and talk, like just simply start talking with disabled people that are, I would say, just as passionate as you, or just maybe but all or just someone that maybe there's something that they love doing every day, with maybe like something with like doing your makeup. I've seen plenty of stuff that, like, for example, Molly Burke has done in terms of makeup stuff with different,
mm-hmm,
Allure, for example. It's a company I've heard of, or I've seen a YouTube video on a while ago. And or maybe something like maybe something with maybe in my case, since I have low vision, I would say like large print, whatever that is that you want to
right,
talk to me about, because I mean it's anything.
right,
Or do braille, because there's a lot of organizations out there, nonprofits, that we rely on, that are they provide, as well as even my school system that I was in, the special ed programs. They do a lot of funding with the state government and everything, with like providing the accessibility stuff, not just because of the laws, but in America at least, but also just the support that any disabled person needs to fully be able to live an independent life, but also doing stuff, something to their full potential that they want to genuinely want to do, because they're very passionate about it, and because they want some type of change to happen, so that way it not only works for them, or maybe you and I, but also I would say the whole disability community and as a whole. And it all goes back to universal design, and it works for
design,
everybody. Yes, that's the thing.
yes.
You gotta you can't just leave a certain population out, because it's just not. You can't just act like we don't exist, because hello, we're here, and we live on
We're
we're
here
all
to
human.
stay. Like, hello, yeah,
We're all human. Like that's alienating, and that's
yeah,
actually sad to think
yeah.
about. But anyways, I think that would be my biggest advice to people. And if anybody notices, just as a full disclosure before we go, but in terms of my blindness condition, you probably have noticed like either maybe my eyes shaking, or I've touched on this plenty of times on my videos, or like sometimes my eyes wander all over the place. It's not because I'm not paying attention. You clearly see that I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking in front of you, and I can see what's going on, because you see from my videos, you'll see that I have quite a bit of vision, but it's not
Yeah.
perfect, but it's I have like a condition with my muscles called nystagmus that makes my eyes shake left and right. Some other people go around,
Mm-hmm.
but luckily I'm able to. It's a lack of muscle control, but luckily I'm able to control that. I know like other conditions are worse, but it does give me. But that's only when like very very bright lights. Let's say at the eye doctor, for example, when they do the slit lamp to like test like eye pressure or
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. That's when it really like my eye starts straining because like I try my best to hold my eye open, but they help me with it obviously so they can look in. They always look at my left eye because my right eye is just never. It's never functioned. I
Right.
used to have light perception, but that was when I was a baby. I don't even remember that part of my life anyway. So,
Right.
but back to the wandering eyes thing that you've all seen me have done. I do that because that's just a natural thing that I do. That's kind of like a quote unquote blindism thing that I think it's funny and humorous to say because it's just like I pick up on things that maybe are it's close enough for me to see it, and like I pick up on something that no one ever notices because a lot of sighted people like, I would highly encourage you to think about like that how you actually do take eyesight for granted more than you realize because it's all you lived. You've never lived with like what I live with. And I get it, it's not easy because you just don't think about it, but I would encourage like think about like I would say watch our videos or watch not just mine and Katie's, but also watch other people because there's plenty of us out there on
Mm-hmm.
social media. That's the beauty of it
Yeah.
that it
Yeah.
gives you have we have social media for there's plenty of good reasons for it. You have to, like I personally have always wanted to find the
Mm-hmm.
positives in it, but also like I've always like thought about like the negatives to it because we already live in a crazy world anyway. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's just how I like
Right.
to think of things. Like you can't just live life
Okay.
like live it up. There's your service dog.
Right.
So yeah, I think that would be a good way to finish it off. I don't
Yeah, I
really
think
think,
yeah.
yeah, I think that would be a
Yeah.
good idea to start off end off.
Yeah. And one final question. Would you mind coming back at some point and like touching on the guide dog service dog discrimination? Because that could be a whole hour. So,
Yes, and we already been yeah, that's a good idea
yeah.
because we already went through an hour and there's already
Yeah.
enough
Yeah.
of
So,
talking. So yeah,
but
we'll definitely
but
touch
yeah.
base on that.
All right. All right. Thank you so much for your time and I really appreciate you being willing to do this and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Same to
So,
you. I've been this is actually my first time doing something like this. I've seen so many other like people like maybe either on the political side of activism or maybe like just anything like even from Maui's videos and other people whoever the other people I find eventually or whatever like this was really cool to do because I always thought it would be cool to do something like this like marketing type kind of thing. Like I always thought
yeah.
it would be fun to do and
Yeah.
because yeah so I'm really glad we got to work this out with our crazy busy schedules and got to do this and we'll definitely
Yes.
touch but don't worry guys we'll definitely touch base again.
Yes. Cuz
Long
with another
conversation.
episode because the guide dog discrimination thing is the whole other ball of wax if you want to call it that.
Yeah, that would be
Um
a good way to put it.
so that's a good way to end it and like I said I'm so grateful that you're willing to do this. I will touch base and for all my listeners out there if you would like to touch base with Christian, I am going to tag him as a collaborator on the YouTube version of this. So if you are interested and would like to see this episode, it will be available tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yep, see you guys we'll see you guys in the near future at some point.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.